There's not enough lithium in the world for the world to go electric.
I find that hard to listen to, and at very least distasteful, if not repugnant, in my view.
I don't believe the public forum should be used for you to advertise your personal views. We are here to listen to people that present at the forum.
Hard to know where to go from there. I just
if we
want
can
to put it on
create a more prosperous city, then we'll have more of abundance around us, so it will actually bring the price of things down.
I believe the work is solid.
A real move to a better democracy or a rat-bag system destined to cause political paralysis?
Thank you for joining us. I'm Richard Pullman, New Zealand.
Obviously, local body elections are coming up, guys. I'm Richard Pullman. I'm sitting here at the studio with Lee Vandervis, currently a councillor, one of Dunedin's longest serving elected officials of all time. This is not of this current group of councillors, as far as I understand. And
I've been there 15 years.
15
it's a
years.
fair old crack.
That's a lifetime for some people that will should listen to men like Lee Vandervis, who's blown the whistle on a lot of ridiculous council spending. And I mean, to the average citizen, a lot of it looks like vanity projects and back scratching. And I don't know where you want to go on some of that stuff, because it's ridiculous. It's wasted money.
A lot of people are not too interested in going back over the past.
Right.
But if you don't look at the past, you don't learn from it either.
Absolutely.
We have ongoing problems which we need to look at the past on, and one of the major ones is the problem of our council companies.
Mm-hmm.
These are companies which the ratepayers over many years have invested hundreds of millions of dollars into. There's City Forests, there's Aurora, a lines company that basically runs all your electricity around the place. There's Delta, which is a maintenance company, basically.
Both council owned.
Yeah, they're all council owned.
Yes.
Tyree Gorge Railway is another one. We haven't had a dividend, that is to say, any useful profit out of any of these companies since 2015.
Are you serious?
We have invested all these hundreds of millions. We spend $1 million, almost $1 million every year paying directors to run these companies. And these directors have been unable since 2015 to give us a dividend.
Turn a profit.
It's extraordinary. I've tried to get Mayor Hawkins to look at it. He doesn't want to look at it. It's ugly. It's bad politics. So they just turn the other way. I've tried to get the chief executive to get us a report. She's been promising a report every year for more than a year now.
I'll take a supporter and look at that. I mean, if you have middlemen, directors, depending on who the politicians are that put them into place, of course those companies are generating a profit. And whose pockets is that money going into?
Well, they're not necessarily generating a profit if they're incompetently run and the maintenance is just so badly organised.
And who does that come back to?
Council oversight. And unfortunately, there is no real council oversight. The companies are basically left with all these assets to do as they like, and nobody's taken into account.
My idea of essential services like that and money coming in is that there's some things that the council owns that shouldn't necessarily turn a profit. Should just keep the council going.
And Tyree Gorge Railway is one of those companies where we don't expect a profit because they provide essentially a social service.
Yeah.
But Aurora is a lines company. A lines company should be something that gives us a massive profit every day, every year at least.
That's what I think.
And the fact that they don't is largely because they run it and have run it for a long time without doing appropriate maintenance.
Wow.
When they do maintenance, they replace the whole damn street because it gets their numbers up. There is...
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that with roadworks.
Well, there's another problem. But the really big problem, and it's one that I will be addressing very soon if I get to be mayor, is the issue of all our council companies and the massive debt that we have. And that debt that we have, the combined debt of DCC and the companies every year, has been going up by 100 million every year for the last 3 years. $300 million in the last 3 years of extra debt. And we've got very little to show for it.
$300 million, are you serious?
Yeah.
I've seen the graphs and you followed the paper trail from it.
I can send you a list of all the different DCC documents that go into producing the graph that shows how dramatic that is.
Where does that fucking money come from? And who are they borrowing off and where is it going, in your estimation?
A lot of it is being borrowed off banks, and they've been able to lend it to us relatively cheaply up until recently. I believe that we're paying 3.6% interest rate. But hang on, that 3.6% interest rate is going to probably double over the next couple of years. You look at what's happening to interest rates in the United States, you look at inflation, we can barely pay interest now. If we look at an interest rate of, say, 4.3%, we are paying $1 million every week just in interest, and we're not paying any of the debt off.
Wow.
$1 million a week every week.
Aaron Hawkins and his team of cronies for you guys. You heard
This
it
is that they've done it on debt, and they don't want anyone to know about it. I've written an opinion piece. I've sent it to the ODT.
I mean, we could talk about the ODT, but
the ODT do provide a valuable service. They're the only paper we've got. They haven't done me too many favours in the last election, but to be fair,
that's really good
to be fair, they are giving me a reasonable crack and quoting me accurately this election. I don't have a complaint with the ODT.
There's been times in the past where that hasn't happened.
There's been 10 years in the past where that hasn't happened, and I would have been mayor years ago.
I feel like there's something really dirty going on with the last election because as we were saying earlier, I don't know particularly many young people that voted for Aaron Hawkins.
Vote out the man! Vote out the man!
It's a student vote that got him over the line, but
I don't think it was. No, the real voting base in Dunedin is the Labor Party.
Right.
Councillor Vincent Pope has been mentoring
tennis
Hawkins for many years. Yep, and they have lists of tens of thousands of loyal Labor voters. They get on the phones and they tell them to vote Hawkins, and they do. That's largely how they do it.
Cold calling.
We
spoke about that last night. That's insane. Who can afford to do that? The Labor Party.
Exactly. You're talking party politics.
They're being driven by an act. They're not even a local body political machine.
No.
I guess they are.
Things are being driven by Wellington, and that's
right.
And it's not been good for Dunedin.
No, it's not. And having people like Karen out in South Dunedin calling shots and influencing. I mean, he was a Labor Party politician. No, Pope was. Benson Pope won't talk to me, and he was drilled out of Parliament for falling asleep in Parliament. And do you really want politicians that fall asleep in the municipal chambers? Does he fall asleep, Lee?
No, he doesn't fall asleep. He's actually running the show, so he's got plenty of reason to stay awake.
He was a backbench politician, wasn't he? So he's always, if he was able to establish himself local body, I always imagined that he'd be a bit of a puppet master because he could talk rings around Aaron Hawkins.
Well, to be fair, Aaron Hawkins is a fairly smooth front man. He can string words together when he needs to.
Really?
Yeah, when he can be bothered. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but he's definitely been put there by the Labor and Green.
He's been put there by somebody else, Lee. It's not them. Not them. It's coming from somewhere else.
Well,
that's a World Economic Forum. He's signed up to that, and he's a globalist.
Well, you're getting to national party politics here, which I don't.
You don't care.
Well, and it's not that I don't care. It's just I don't know enough to be able to comment.
Fair play. That's not your job.
It's not something that I can comment on because I'm got no information that you don't already have on that.
True.
You need to talk to him about it.
He won't talk to us.
Well, you need to then get whatever independent facts you've got and
Just
put
keep
them
going. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So, what's a day like in the municipal chambers?
Can't do that. Too hard, bro. Bro, like there's things to be cautious, considerate about, bro, because, yeah, can't do that, bro. You'll be cancelled. Big Daddy Council, Big Daddy, big tennis balls.
Like, it sounds like to me, and I'm just painting a very, but it sounds like to me getting ganged up on. That's Benton Pope and Hawkins and whoever else altogether.
And Councillor Walker, they're all basically there, ready to stick the knife in as the moment you say anything that they don't like the sound
I've
of.
seen instances like that to a Channel 39.
But that's not really. I mean, that's just politics. I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah.
As long as I do my homework properly and I've read the agendas, and sometimes those agendas can be several centimetres thick. Okay. And as long as I get to make my points, and that's where the difficulty comes in, because the mayor is in a very strong position to be able to shut anyone down if he doesn't like what they're saying. And nobody does it more than Mayor Hawkins.
Really?
Yeah, Mayor Cull was bad for it, but I tell you, Mayor Hawkins,
so anything
he shut me down so many times. He shut down a whole council meeting when it didn't suit him.
Really?
Yeah, when we...
So that costs money,
Well, it's not just that it costs money. It's an absolute... travesty for democracy.
It is.
He tried to get.
He has no right to.
He tried to get a letter sent to MP Mahuta saying that council broadly supported the Three Waters takeover.
I was going to say, where do you land on Three Waters?
Three Waters is the biggest theft in local government history.
Absolutely.
The biggest attempted theft, and if it happens, it will gut our local government.
Yeah.
It will destroy
the
asset base that we've built up over 150 years, and our legal advice from our own DCC lawyers is that the government of whatever day will be able to privatise or mortgage that asset once they take it, with only a 50% plus majority of public.
In water.
$3 billion worth of our assets that have been built up over 150 years are being confiscated currently by Mahuta and Co.
Fuck them.
And they're going to pass it over. They're going to pass over control of it. And you've got to remember that control of an asset defines what ownership actually is. You look up ownership, it's control of an asset. They're taking
possession's 9/10 of the law, effectively.
Well,
not with water.
It's 10/10. So.
Yeah, okay. 10/10. That's
what he did is he wrote the letter hoping to get councillor support for it. A number of councillors, mainly me and Councillor O'Malley, were asking so many awkward questions about this letter and why it was that he was claiming broad council support when he didn't have it, that he actually called for an adjournment, which he's allowed to do, and then 20 minutes later came back on Zoom and said the meeting's cancelled.
That's Hawkins.
That's Hawkins.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay, so wow, this just reminds me of the 19th.
We've got a pretty good idea about what's happened.
Right.
It took 20 minutes for him to go through standing orders to find out if it was actually legal for him to shut the whole meeting down because it wasn't running the way he wanted.
And is that legal for the mayor to do that?
It turns out, I've had it out with the chief executive, that her reply was standing orders is silent on this particular issue. It hasn't happened.
What is that?
Well, the mayor has very wide-ranging powers.
That's insane.
Especially regarding what ends up on the agenda. Typically what happens is the mayor decides what's on the agenda and the councillors rubber stamp it. That's pretty typical. Now, there are exceptions to it, and there have been times when it's been useful for councillors to actually disagree with the mayor, but most of the time disagreeing with the mayor just gets you in hot water and means that you won't get a chairmanship or a sister city or whatever. Yeah.
Your back scratch.
There's a whole lot of inducement for people to play the game, and most of them do.
Okay.
I don't, because
I
can afford not to,
I
because I have such a strong voter base.
Yeah.
I got double the vote of any other councillor. So
and that was the last election. Eh?
Yeah, and the election before. I had double the vote of any other councillor. So I don't have to worry about losing a couple of hundred votes and not being a councillor anymore.
Right.
I'm going to
be a councillor regardless.
Yeah.
So you've got a strong voice and you're not afraid to blow the whistle, really.
Well, blowing the whistle has not always worked well for me. There's a lot of shoot the messenger around.
Okay.
If the news is bad and you're the person that's delivering the news, people tend to associate you with the bad news, and that accounts for a lot of the negative publicity that I've had.
Right, yeah. And then if these people have enough money to run a smear campaign with cold calling and influence an entire voter base, then, I mean, you may have a voter base and a voice, but that's a lot of money to be up against, Lee. That's intimidating. Yeah, well, how do you feel about this? I mean, like Three Waters and this co-governance stuff. My understanding is now that we have unelected officials like iwi on the council.
Yes, and I'm the only councillor that had the courage to vote against unknown, unelected people on council.
I mean, who the fuck are these people?
Well, they seem pleasant enough.
Oh, they do in council meetings, I'm sure.
Got some very nice cars in the car park.
Wow.
But,
Full of cars.
They haven't done anything untoward so far. But the fact that we do have unelected people, I think is anti-democracy, and I will do what I can to ensure that we have a more democratic council going forward.
Because that actually terrifies me. The word unelected and the word democracy don't often belong in a sentence together.
And at the risk of sounding racist, I think there should be iwi officials, and I think that they should have a say, Māori.
Oh, they do. We actually have what's called a Maori Memorandum of Understanding. It goes back at least 10 years. I think it was 2006, where anything that Maori iwi consider to be of interest to them, we have to consult them on, and we can't make a decision.
Exactly.
We can't make a decision first unless we consult them on.
So why do they have unelected officials?
All the individual counts are received from the returning officers, and information is relayed directly to our computer results system. Our operators are standing by to receive selected results from some key polling places, which we've identified as providing us with a clear idea of how the election night results are likely.
Sounds like, I mean, if it's a sinkhole of how many million did you say?
Well, the budget for rates is 190 million that we're going to spend, but you've got to remember that they're adding another 100 million on top of that.
At a 3.7% interest rate, that they're only paying the interest, so the debt accrues anyway.
The debt is going up 100 million every year, and we're getting so little for it, and it's totally unsustainable. And the irony is that the primary driver, Mayor Hawkins, claims to be sustainable there and it is the most unsustainable deal we've ever had.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to go back to the building of the Civic Centre. He built it without any major rates increase or increase in debt. And if you go back further to the building of the town hall, that also was built without any increase in debt.
That's going way back.
Yeah, 1920s. No increase in debt, no increase in rates. They built it with a surcharge that they put on the tram that ran down to the South Seas exhibition, which is the reason I have the South Seas exhibition as the background on my poster this year.
Oh, yeah.
It's to remind people that you can do things, wonderful things, without increasing rates and debt, and you can harness the brilliant people of Dunedin to do really extraordinary things. The South Seas exhibition of 1925 was extraordinary.
Money being spent in Dunedin businesses and stuff that we need. What do you think about the stadium being built? That was.
I saw the stadium as a maintenance nightmare that was never going to be justified by the number of events there, and I've been proven correct.
Yeah, you're right. And we had Carisbrook, and that's been mowed down. And, I
Carers-
heard a lot of the money came from the University of Otago for the stadium, just because of where it is.
Well, there's another little hook. The University of Otago claimed that they were going to subsidise the stadium by $10 million.
Right, and they did.
And they didn't. So there were a lot of claims about the stadium. Both the Regional Council and the DCC claimed that they wouldn't go ahead and build the stadium unless they had an anchor tenant for the stadium, and that anchor tenant was going to be the Otago Rugby Football Union. They never got an anchor tenant. They went ahead and built it anyway.
And, just to cap that off, I mean, there's not a whole lot that you can say about that without it being a hilarious waste of money.
Well, there's nothing hilarious about it.
It's not hilarious if you're not a
tragic.
counter. It's fucking tragic.
And what was really tragic was the loss of Carisbrook. I saw
the history there.
I saw Carisbrook's loss coming, and actually went to the trouble of getting Carisbrook listed as a Category 1
historic site. Good idea.
Yeah,
and that didn't work. So thanks.
Well,
guys.
it was the only time that a Category 1 historic
It's
place
been mowed down.
has been mowed down that I know of. They kept the little turnstiles as a sort of
That's illegal. They can't mow down historic sites if they're registered as historic sites. You can't.
You're not supposed to, but whether it's legal or not depends on how many lawyers you've got and how much time and money you've got.
Well, how many lawyers have you got?
About 3. And I'm only paying one of them. I'm not paying him what he's worth either.
Right, okay. The more you pay them, the more ferocious they are, really.
Not necessarily. You need someone who's competent, and I'm very lucky to have a very
Good lawyer.
QC working for me.
QC, excellent. That's like next.
It's on reclaimed land. So is the Igga Centre, and so is Seacliff, who was built by R.A. Lawson, who was a very prominent architect from, I understand, the late 1800s and into the...
Yeah, R.A. Lawson designed First Church.
And Seacliff, Chicago Boys.
And the Fortune Theatre building. Yes. And the old post office in Lawrence.
Yes.
I know the old post office in Lawrence because I actually owned it for a little while. I was very keen on R.A. Lawson.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Seacliff was asked to go to Australia because it was sinking, and that wasn't his fault. And the same thing happened to the architect for the Igga Centre. Don't build it so close, and the Igga Centre's fucking sinking into the ground. Go and have a look.
It has had some issues, but it has had an awful lot of use as well.
That's great. Yeah.
I'm very keen on the Igga Centre because it gets used every day.
It does.
And all of it.
The stadium doesn't, on the other hand.
No, we're lucky to get an event there once every few months sometimes.
Oh, but Elton John's coming, Lee.
Yeah, no. What I want to do with the stadium is recognise that it wasn't the good idea that it was made out to be, but given that we've got it,
yeah, it's here now.
What I want to do
is sinking like the Titanic.
I want to put an artificial turf in it and get it used every day by sports groups and events.
Okay, that's good.
I just want it used every day.
As long as
we can get it, if we can get it used, then we're getting some value from it. Currently, we're not.
Yeah, we're not.
And the problem with the sinking, if there is a problem at the stadium,
I mean, imagine there will be.
Part of it is built on rock. Part of it is not built on. So the bit that is not built on rock, if we get an earthquake, could be a problem for us. There's going to be some severe maintenance issues coming up as well, which I may well have to deal with when we come there. And that is that the roof material, the plastic, only has a 15-year warranty.
Right. Wow.
I think that'll do.
Yeah. I know I'm going to go and raise awareness for voting after this, once papers are out in the weekend. And I'm not going to say vote Vandervis. I've seen the graphs. A lot of ridiculous council spending, and I mean, to the average citizen, a lot of it looks like vanity projects and back scratching. People should listen to men like Lee Vandervis. Oh, but Elton John's coming, Lee.
Yeah, no.
It's taken 6 weeks of work to get the election graphics animated, tested and up and running.
And we'll certainly be able to make a confident prediction. We do that by extending the lines to the right-hand side, adding in the predicted percentages that you see there.
What am I doing?
You don't have to answer that.
They're blocking my reach. We need more eyes on this. I'm predicted Parliament! This is huge news.
It takes sometimes more strength to say, nah, I can't do it, than rather yell, well, either do it
You know it's illegal as a journalist to be taking money to deliver propaganda.
If you need a mental health help, 61737, and there's a copy out there. Bing bong.
That's our show. Thank you for joining us. This has been New Zealand, and I'm Richie Cullum.
Shut up. You know, you can't do that.